Back at it again here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. We continue to roll forward on this Monday, May 5th, and we have a major Brock Purdy contract update to get to from none other than the general manager of the Niners and John Lynch, who was on the Unbuttoned podcast with Chris Sims and had a lot of interesting things to say as far as the current status of where this Brock Purdy contract extension is right now. So, with that, we transition to today's poll question. I want to hear from you. Get your responses down in the comment section right now and fill in the blank for me. Brock Purdy, on the verge of signing this deal, at least we think it's going to happen, is a top blank quarterback in the NFL. Top 5, top 10, top 15. You let me know and share your opinions with me. Let's first begin with this Purdy report from Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones of The Athletic. And he said this, and this really started to make a lot of headway early on this Monday morning, that Purdy is expected to wind up with a contract that will pay him around $50 million per season and places him among the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. It now seems like a matter of when, not if, Purdy gets paid. The 49ers have been trying to work out a deal that gives the quarterback long-term security and also avoids any holdouts this summer or early in the season. The notable Niners offseason dates that I want to pass along, because this gives you a good timeline for when this Purdy contract might get done and when I hope it gets done by. Rookie minicamp going to take place this week, Friday, Saturday in Santa Clara. So a lot of these Niners draftees from this 2025 class, UDFAs, other young players on this roster who need practice time and seasoning, and other players who are getting these invites to rookie minicamp, they will be on hand in the shadows of Levi's Stadium at the SCP Performance Center May 9th, May 10th, Friday, Saturday of this week. OTAs for San Francisco, May 27th, 28th, back again on the 30th, and then June 2nd and the 3rd, and June 5th. Then, this is a big date right here, because these are organized team activities for OTAs. They are not mandatory. But minicamp is mandatory on June 10th and 11th. And you think about this Niners offense last year in 2024. This plays into why I've always said it is important to get this Brock Purdy contract done. Because this Niners offense last year had no rhythm, had no flow, had no consistency. This Niners offense was sloppy from start to finish with a lot of penalties and a lot of mistakes that were avoidable and head-scratching that you usually don't see from a championship caliber football team. The Niners also were awful in short yardage and in the red zone. Kyle Shanahan, I thought, coached poorly. That then led to Brock Purdy playing meh type of football. He was average. At times, he was really good. At times, he was elite. Other times, he was not good. The 49ers also offensively were a very injured ball club on both sides of the rock. And the Niners want to avoid all of that from transpiring and carrying over from 2024, a disastrous season in which the Niners are trying to flush and get rid of, to 2025. And so that's why I think it's so vitally important for Purdy to be on hand for OTAs, mandatory minicamp, and practice, and to not hold out, because naturally, when you practice, naturally, when you get reps in with your fellow offensive teammates, when you are together as a collective unit, all 11 starters on the field ideally, you can work on rhythm, you can work on flow, you can work on continuity, and you can have offensive harmony. The Niners lacked all of those things last season, and it was a big reason why they were such a sluggish, frustrating, maddening unit offensively and, of course, defensively as well. So, when you get this Brock Purdy deal done early, you get all of those things. And hopefully when the Niners start the season in week 1, they play with rhythm. They play with timing. They play as a unit that gels. And what happened last week? The Niners signed George Kittle to a contract extension early. Historically, how this regime has done business, this has been the case with the Fred Warner contract extension in 2021, Deebo Samuel in 2022, Nick Bosa in 2023, Brandon Ayuk in 2024. When the Niners sign these extensions late, the market gets reset. And instead of signing the extensions early, when you can get a player sometimes at 60 to 70% of market value, you have to overpay. But on top of having to overpay some of your players by waiting after the market already gets set, and then you have to play catch up to the market, when you sign players to extensions late, there's bad vibes. There's awkwardness. There's a lot of drama. You know what you don't want as a sports organization? You know what you don't want as a business? Drama, bad vibes, a dark cloud hovering over your organization, employees not being on the same page and being disgruntled with ownership, with management, in a sports sense, with the coaching staff. And so the Niners signed Kittle early. Hopefully they have learned their lesson. Sign Purdy early. Avoid drama, avoid noise, and avoid a potential holdout. As for the juiciest portion of today's show, this is what John Lynch said on the Chris Sims podcast. I can tell you, we've made it a practice not to talk about negotiations, and that goes way back to when I was playing. I felt like that was my business, and I didn't want the world knowing it, so I've always been very sensitive to that. But what I will tell you, and can tell you, is we're having really good, positive discussions. When it gets done, I'm not sure. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But hope is not a strategy. So we're making progress, and we've had good discussions. When you think about some of the extensions that the Niners have signed in recent memory, and I've listed off some of them here over the last several minutes, when a deal gets close, usually that's the type of verbiage that you hear from all general managers and the San Francisco 49ers. So if John Lynch, who is a huge figure in making these types of decisions, says progress is being made, we're getting closer to a deal, it sounds like, in fact, progress is being made in getting a deal done. And there are a few key elements with this Purdy contract that we're all going to be looking out for, right? How many years did the Niners give Brock Purdy on this contract extension as he enters the final year of his contract? What is the guaranteed money? How many of those years are guaranteed? The popular one, what is the average annual value? Where does he rank among the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL? And for security reasons, will that contract be backloaded? What types of incentives will be built into that deal to give the team optionality, flexibility to get off of that deal if it doesn't work out with Purdy because of play or because of injury? You take a gander at the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. You're looking at Purdy making at least $50 million in average annual value. Why? That is the going rate. So you have Jalen Hurts at 51. He's probably outplayed that contract. So too is Lamar at 52. Justin Herbert, 52.5. Jared Goff, 53. I think that's kind of the sweet spot for Purdy, his camp, and the Niners. You pay him right around Jared Goff, who I think he's better than. I think Purdy is better than Tua. I think Purdy is better than Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love. So 53 to 55 is my prediction there for Purdy. You have Burrow at 55, and then those other quarterbacks there, obviously, to top off that list. And then this is a look at the total guaranteed dollars, which is going to go a long way in determining when this contract gets done. And a lot of our opinions, in turn, on this Purdy deal. Josh Allen, he's not number one in average annual value, but he got the most guaranteed dollars at $250. Dak Prescott, he's making $60 million per, as we just showed you. He got $231. That's second. Deshaun Watson, worst contract and trade in the history of the NFL. That's $230. Joe Burrow at $219. Trevor Lawrence at $200. Justin Herbert, $193. Lamar Jackson, $185. Jalen Hurts, $179. Jared Goff, $170. Tua, $167. Jordan Love, $160.3. And then Kyler Murray there, who I think Purdy is also better than, at $160. So average annual value isn't everything. Guaranteed dollars isn't everything. You can get more in AAV and less in guaranteed. You can get less in AAV, that's average annual value, and more in guaranteed dollars. So remember that when and if this Brock Purdy contract extension does get done, because it's important to know the nuances and some of that in-depth information when it comes to a big money contract like this. So I want to know, will Brock Purdy get a deal done in the next week? I'm talking 7 days. So by the 12th of May, as I record this on May 5th, yes or no? Debate it down in the comment section right now. If you want a Brock Purdy jersey because you're a firm believer he's that guy, that he's him, you can get a Brock Purdy jersey right now. Thanks to our friends at Fanatics at chatsports.com/49jersey. There are plenty of other Niners jerseys that you can get as well. George Kittle, hopefully going to be a Niner for life after signing that contract extension. Hopefully Christian McCaffrey comes back healthy, one of the most dynamic players in the history of this organization. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, the top 2 defensive players on this team. If you want a rookie like Mikael Williams, you can get the rookies jersey. You want a throwback, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, because those jerseys never go out of style. They are timeless. You just use that link down below. It takes you to Fanatics. Fanatics knows that Chat Sports, the 49ers Report, and Chase Sr. sent you. Chatsports.com/49jersey. All right, back to Purdy here. There are a lot of good elements to Brock Purdy's game. There are some bad elements to Brock Purdy's game as he gets closer to signing this contract extension. What makes Purdy elite in my eyes? Timing, accuracy, anticipation. The ability to process the defense, what that unit is doing, and make decisions based off of that to the advantage of Brock Purdy's offensive unit. He has been the ideal quarterback for Kyle Shanahan's system. Shanahan's system is based on timing, getting the ball out on time, in rhythm, out in space accurately to playmakers so that they can pick up yards after the catch. Kyle Shanahan doesn't always want a quarterback who isn't going to see it and then have to extend plays like a Caleb Williams to play recess backyard ball. At times, Purdy could do that, and it's a strength because the Niners' offensive line is not elite by any means. So Purdy being able to scramble, make plays out of structure, having that improvisational nature to his game, it's an added benefit to what he brings to the table. He's an underrated athlete. He also has intangibles: leadership, great teammate, team captain. And when you pay a quarterback $50 to $55 million per year, you don't want them to be noisy. You don't want them to bring unnecessary noise and drama to your organization. You want them to be low maintenance. It seems as though Brock Purdy has a great time playing golf and farming. When he's doing that off the field, it beats the alternative of clubbing, worrying about your quarterback and face of the franchise, getting in trouble with unnecessary headlines. Where Purdy struggles, and these are concerns when you sign a player like this to a massive contract extension. At times, being undersized can hurt him. That's the ability to see the field with the lack of height. Sometimes the lack of arm strength can get him in trouble with the inability to push the ball downfield, although I think that with his arm not being a bazooka, he does have underrated arm strength. In 2024, at times I thought he tried to play too much hero ball. He tried to put the team on his shoulders, and he tried to do things outside of his comfort zone and outside of his strengths. What did that lead to? Niners are down, driving late in games, and Purdy is just chucking up passes, turning the ball over. He did that a lot at Iowa State because he was trying to be the hero. Sometimes he has to play within the system, and the system benefits from Purdy just playing point guard. He has also really struggled against man defense. Awesome against zone. He can carve zone defenses up. Not good against man. That's a Kyle Shanahan problem and a Brock Purdy problem. And coming from behind is another weakness for Brock Purdy. But for much of his stint as the starting quarterback for San Francisco, he's been a top 10 quarterback. He is still only 25 years old. I think that he can continue to get better, and I think that he will continue to get better. Does he need some complementary pieces around him? Yes, but that's not a bad thing. Think about some of the quarterbacks in NFL history who have had some great weapons. Kurt Warner had Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk, and a really good defense. Tom Brady had Bill Belichick, an excellent defense, and at times, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, Randy Moss. Peyton Manning had Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James with also really good defenses. There have been quarterbacks in the past, modern day, who need quality players and coaching around them to help lift them up. Even to start his career, Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid. Jalen Hurts just won a Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and the number 1 overall defense in the National Football League. There are rare instances in which a quarterback can just carry the whole squad. There's a reason teams win championships. It's because the team is really good. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. Who'd you say, Reed? Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. There's also a reason he hasn't won it, right? At Chase_Senior on X and Instagram. Hit me up. Give me a follow. In addition to all of the content that I put up here on YouTube, I'm always talking about the Niners on my social media pages.